So have you ever been in a car and hear a song coming through your speakers and instantly remember all the words? Do memories of another time or place, and this is usually the case, events, flood your brain? That happens to me all the time. If I'm on my way to work or even walking down the street and a song hits my ears and bam, I'm somewhere else. I remember the good times and the bad times. I've even had it happen to me when I'm just walking around not really looking for music at all. That happens a lot in grocery stores. Not really sure why. But that's what this channel is about. My music memories. Things that flood into my head while hearing that song.
And you don't seem to understand.
This song is by a group called Bow. The song is titled Duvet. This song is actually an opening theme song from an anime called Lane. My introduction to anime is much like other people my age. Robotech and Astro Boy playing on Saturday mornings. They never aired them on major networks. They were too busy showing kids the wonders of Thundercats and Silverhawks. So one of the other networks, I don't know which one, I honestly can't remember that far back, would show Astro Boy early in the morning and Robotech later on. Back then, Japanese animation wasn't really in the Western market yet, so there was no anime. All I knew is that these cartoons had better designs, more intricate and mechanical things than anything else I had seen. Oh, and all the characters seemed to have big eyes. To an early watcher, they were just cool. I suppose my official introduction to anime was at a local comic book shop in Sault Ste. Marie. I was collecting comics with my friends when we noticed a new shelf with videotapes on it. They were cartoons, but they looked different than the ones we were used to. The only owner quickly corrected our statement and told us that they were anime from Japan. He said they were available to rent. So we rented a couple of tapes along with our purchases of Batman Gotham by Gaslight. That was a really good comic book, by the way. Check it out if you can. We picked up one with a really flashy cover called Legend of the Overfiend, and one that looked kind of goofy, called Ranma One Half. We watched the Overfiend one first, in stunned silence. This had to be rated R or even X. We looked and there was no ratings on either tape. There was a lot of violence and mayhem throughout this movie. We felt a little shell-shocked after watching it. I found out later that it was largely considered the most violent and disturbing anime released in the West. I can definitely see that. We started the other tape in hope of a palate cleanser. I don't think we could have picked two animes that were more different. Ranma turned out to have 2 episodes, not a movie. It was drawn in a lighter, almost sing-songy style. It felt goofy and fun, even during the introduction. The story surrounded a boy named Ranma, who, when he gets splashed with cold water, changes into a girl. Boobs and all. He would change back by getting warm water on him. It was very funny and weird. After watching the entire series later, I really wish I'd been able to watch it from the beginning, as it would have made a lot more sense. But we enjoyed it back then. And we continued to rent any of the Ranma tapes we could find from the comic book store. And we really stayed away from anything that even looked anywhere near as dark as The Legend of the Overfiend. And Ranma is still one of my favorite animes to this day. I continued to watch anime when I could. It seemed to overlap with my comic book collecting, too. I was reading manga, that's a Japanese comic book, called Akira. I found it by my close connection to Marvel Comics. I was a very big collector of the X-Men comics, and in the back of one of those comics, there was an ad that Marvel was doing an imprint offshoot called Epic Comics. So I looked into it. They were releasing a series called Akira. They were even using computers to color the original black and white mangas. Books turned out to be simply amazing. The detail of the artist Katsuhiro Otomo was simply breathtaking. I was drawing and writing my own Agent Lynx comic books back then, and those books heavily influenced my art. In the back pages of one of the issues, there was a press announcement of an animated movie that was being made called Akira. It looked like the same art as the book I was reading. I was so excited. It would take years before I would hear that Streamline Pictures would be releasing the videotape here in Canada. I quickly went to my local Blockbuster to pre-order it. I don't think it was a common practice back then, but the store accepted my money. I think it was about $50. Of course, I would go weekly to see if it had come in. I didn't want to be the forgotten customer who missed out on Akira. Eventually, it did show up, and the movie was amazing. The English dub was something else, though. It was a little weird. They got the voice actor who did Michelangelo in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday morning cartoon show to be the voice of the main character, Kaneda. It was weird, but it was okay. It was the art and animation that really, really got my attention, though. Eventually, other companies would release Akira with a better dub, and I've owned them all over the years. From the black limited edition Steelbook DVD version to the more recent Pioneer Blu-ray release, I've enjoyed them all. It still stands out as the film that seriously brought anime to the US and Canada. Akira is still largely recognized as one of the best anime movies of all time. I thought of it as one of those unknown gems that was in my collection. My friends had been forced to watch it because that's the way I was, and where they thought it looked cool, they never really cared about the story. I ended up getting an Akira t-shirt somehow. I think it came from Toronto, but I honestly don't remember. And I wore it to work as one of my many midnight shifts. One day a staff member walked into the store, saw my shirt, and exclaimed that it was so cool. Where did I get it? And he thought Akira was pretty great too. My smile lit up the morning. Someone else finally understood the greatness that actually was and is Akira. I would still keep my ear to the ground about anime long after my comic book collecting days had passed. It was about this time that I saw Ghost in the Shell. That movie showed me the technological promise of a future that I desperately wanted to be part of. It looked so amazing and the art was stunning. I later found and read all the mangas that provided the inspiration for the movie. I still own the mangas and have watched the entire TV series, which is also great. And I didn't hate that recent Scarlett Johansson live-action version. It wasn't the panel-by-panel recreation that most fans were clamoring for, but I thought it was fine. Anime and manga artists seem to enjoy different mediums and formats taking a shot at their source material. I was walking through a music store back then. Music stores were always a great place to find unknown or obscure movies, when I noticed an anime that I had never heard of or never seen. It had a purple cover with kind of a sad-looking girl in the cover. She wasn't drawn sexy or anything. She just looked, well, normal. And maybe that's what drew me in. There was no attempt to market her using her sexuality to sell the anime. That was kind of what really interested me. So I bought it. The story was kind of like a fever dream and very confusing, and somehow interesting at the same time. Think of Twin Peaks without the coffee and red rooms. The detail involved in the computer featured in the show was astounding. They worked out how it would look at the startup, how you would log into the system, and everything. The thought that went into this art really, really kept me intrigued. The opening song was kind of a fake-out. It was a sing-songy, kind of sad, kind of happy melody that almost seemed at odds with the anime itself. There is at times an oppressive tone through the story. This song tries and kind of succeeds to slow that tone, so it's not so overwhelming. Of all of the anime openings that I have heard, this one stands out. Not just because it's entirely English. I mean, I do think that even the Japanese releases, the song's in English. But I still listen to it on my phone. I've recently tried to rewatch the entire series, but Serial Experiments Lane was just a little slow. I mean, the story is purposely slow, and with an emphasis on building atmosphere, and uncomfortable spookiness is everywhere. And it still does all that. It does it very well. It just seems in our current times, we all want a quick and speedy anime fix. I mean, I don't see My Hero Academia having any slow, plotting episodes, but then they don't really seem to have any atmosphere at all. I don't find myself hunting down new anime series anymore, but I still rewatch Akira and Ranma, and lately Lane, at least once a year, because many, many years ago I discovered them all. And I never want to forget the simple joy of watching in awe those very special shows. Thanks for listening to another story that fell out of my head. Have you got a favorite anime? A favorite, animated series? A favorite anime movie? Please let me know what it is in the comments below. I always like to try new things. And like always, please like, comment, and subscribe.